Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of our In Conversation with series. I'm Naomi, a Careers and Employability Coordinator here at the university, and I'm joined today by June Terry. June graduated from the University of Cumbria with a degree in Fine Art in 2017. June is an artist, property developer, philanthropist and animal welfare supporter. June is currently using her artist skills to diversify into property development and most recently has been handling the carpentry aspect of a large basement conversion in Carlisle, in addition to managing teams of builders. June has been a guest artist at numerous functions, invited to BBC Radio as guest artist on their Artie show, and was guest artist at Slaley Hall in Northumbria for the Texel Sheep Breeders Association, which was a sellout exhibition. June, thanks for joining us today.
Hi there.
Great to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sorry. Have you always wanted to be an artist?
Yeah. Well, yes, I have, though I always felt, I will try not to waffle, so bear with me. I'll give you a little bit of a background. Yes, I have, though I always felt I was actually born at the wrong time in the 70s, where girls, both at home and at school, were sort of knocked back constantly. And I think this has ignited in me the sort of the fire for equality, to fight for equality throughout my life. I have two daughters as well, so I feel if I can do anything to sort of help their generation, then that's absolutely great. Actually, I was actually born on the 29th of August 1960. So I was always the youngest in the class as well, which was always a huge disadvantage. And it actually took 50 years for this to be recognised. And thankfully, pupils with my birthday today can now defer for a year. It's too late for me, though. I realised pretty early that I needed to equip myself with useful tools to make my own way in life. I was always a tomboy, but not allowed to do woodwork, for example. So the nearest thing was art. From the age of about 12 at secondary school, in order to give myself headspace and escape the bullies for an hour a day, I would sneak into the art room every lunchtime, which was wonderful. My mum was an artist and art therapist also, so thanks to her, I was introduced to art at an early age. I couldn't wait to leave school, go to Epsom School of Art, where I spent 5 brilliant years trying as many different art genres as possible. So that's that.
No, that's a really good overview. Thanks. So It sounds like art has been something that, has always been something that's been of interest to you and something that's important to you.
Absolutely. It's put food on the table. I've made art, painted, sold direct to the public, and it's literally paid the bills and put food on the table. I was a single parent of 3 children, and it was just a wonderful way. I mean, it's not just painting on canvases. There's all different. I mean, art touches every single industry, as we all know, and it's wonderful, and it is a gift. And I think if you just got to keep your mind open to opportunities and ears and eyes and everything, and don't be too proud to accept something that you think, oh, that's not really traditional art or what I want to do. If you want to earn money from your art, then learn to say yes to opportunities, because you never know the doors that these things can open.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that thinking about keeping an open mind is definitely a good way to think about things. So could you tell us a little bit more about your career journey as an artist so far? Then you've mentioned that art has been something that you've always done and it's helped you to pay the bills, which I think is something that a lot of our students will find encouraging, especially at the moment.
Absolutely, you can do it if you work hard, and it's just finding those routes in. Really, it's just in all total, I spent 6 years at art school. For the first 5 years were fantastic, to the age of 21. Unfortunately, I couldn't do the extra year to get my degree at that point because my late husband was diagnosed with MS, and I had to leave to care for him. And so I had a lifetime of caring, raising 3 children, running a business, did all sorts of things. But it always stuck in my throat a bit that I never had my degree. And so it was only until 2 years ago that I thought, the first time in my life, I'm not a carer. I've always been an artist. I've always painted. I've always sold my work. I've decorated people's houses. Those things are not things that just everybody can do. You have to You have to have an eye of what looks right, and just taking every opportunity as it came, applying for everything. I can't tell you how many times I've applied for the summer exhibition in London. Yeah, it's just, and yet I haven't got in, but nearly, but not quite. And you think, oh, you do have to get used to knockbacks. As a graduate, you come out and you think, woo, the world's waiting for me, but actually it's not. And if an opportunity comes up, that window of opportunity doesn't stay open for very long before it snaps shut. So you have to be very quick off the shovel, if that makes sense. If something comes up, you go for it straight away. Keep your CV and your online, your CV and an image of yourself and one or two pieces of your best work. Have that quick access and just keep firing it out at different places. But there are opportunities out there, but they're few and far between. Especially, I'm sorry to say, in Carlisle, Cumbria, but they are there, and I do really hope that Carlisle has got money and investment coming in, and art is getting higher and higher on the priority. And I think we all need to push for that. We all need to support stuff when we see it talked about and discussed. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. That gives me a little bit more of an insight into what's going on. So I did a short business course, and that got me into there. Just take the opportunities that you can, every opportunity that you can, go for it. And even in the local papers, you'll read opportunities that come up. Tully House, they were inviting people, but just producing artwork, a bit bread and butter stuff, but it sells. And if you want to make money that sells to the public, they want the mountains and the lakes. They want they want that stuff. They're not going to buy your weird and wonderful stuff that I would think is fantastic. If you want money that's going to come in through your work, that's going to pay the bills, put food on the table, it needs to be stuff that people want to buy for the houses, really. They might invest 200 quid. If you're lucky, you can build up a reputation and you start charging 2,000 quid. Yeah, but you have to build up that, that presence, really.
Absolutely, yeah. So having that body of work there.
And reputation, yeah.
For students who are perhaps looking for opportunities in, within the art world, maybe in Cumbria or maybe a little bit further afield, what types of places or organisations would you recommend that they take a look at?
I think just go online, put in whatever you want to do, see what Dr. Google comes up with. I mean, you'll be amazed at the opportunities that come up. Some of them will be volunteering in weird and wonderful places, but if it takes your fancy and you can afford to do it, go for it. And it's easier when you're younger. Do apply for these. Don't get too down when you get knocked back. You will keep getting knocked back. Judges in competitions are fickle. HR departments in places offering employment are fickle and often know somebody that they want to get the job. I'm sorry to say it. So you're never going to get the job in a million years. But you've got to keep trying. And I'm sorry to say it, but the more weird and wacky an individual you want to be, the fewer the buyers are out there that will want that stuff. And if you just literally want to be an artist and make money, pay the bills, I'm sorry to keep coming back to it, put the food on the table, you need to be open-minded, whether it's decorating a house. I could offer somebody, a graduate, right now, I'm looking for somebody to paint my basement, which I'm converting into an indoor gym. There's a week's work there. I'll give you 500 quid in the hand, cash in hand. Do the job properly. It's got to be painted white. I'm sorry, it's a bit boring for an artist, but paint it white. It's decorating. It's a brush in your hand. It's your hand you're getting covered in paint. You're using your art to make money. Don't be too precious. Don't be too precious. Another thing I did was I started I volunteered again, didn't pay me any money at all at the time. But my late mother was in a nursing home, and they were just so bored. The guys there were just so bored. And I said, look, I'll start an art class. Anyway, fantastic. 2 years it ran for. One day a week, I would run an art class. And from that, I got headhunted for a full-time position in a nursing home. Now, this is a job that artists could go for if they're that way inclined. 9 to 5, full-time activities coordinator. And, you know, you can make it as arty as you like. I used to do portraiture. I used to do all sorts of stuff, all sorts of stuff. You know, there are jobs out there, but they're few and far between.
Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes I think, as you've kind of demonstrated there, it's perhaps about thinking outside of the box.
It is. So, and another thing I might just point out is, and I can't believe this is legal, but it is, if I had having that job, activities coordinator, which I did for about 2 years in Carlisle, absolutely loved it, was brilliant at it. The same job, same company over the border in Dumfries paid more money per hour, because in Scotland you earn more money. That's something I've only recently learned. How can that be legal? But it is.
Yeah, perhaps a little tip there for some of our graduates.
Yeah.
So thinking about some other successes that you've had as an artist, then you've exhibited at Tully House in Carlisle, and you've spoken on BBC Radio Cumbria.
Yeah, I was invited on there, and I had to talk for 3 hours with two other people, which wasn't hard because I talk a lot. But it was great. It was putting the word up there for artists in Carlisle, and absolutely. Yeah, any opportunity like that, go for it. Never be late. It sounds obvious. Never be late. Always be polite and always be humble. Yeah, and make sure you're speaking to the right person. I mean, I was taught at university, and I don't agree with it even now, but I do think outside the box. They say you're not allowed to cold contact people. Oh, no, that's not the done thing. Well, I'm sorry, but I would say do. If you see somewhere that you fancy trying to get into, make sure you're speaking to the right person. Make sure you're speaking to the person at the top. And if that person at the top doesn't really make the decisions, they will give you the contact person that you need to speak to. And it's just a little foot in the door. And then if you say, the director, and give the name, told me to contact you, it's a little bit further in that door. You've got to be quite pragmatic really about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So perhaps then thinking about the types of qualities or attributes that can help people to succeed as an artist, what else would you say is useful, perhaps alongside that pragmatism?
I think believe in yourself and be passionate about what you're doing, which is hard when it's bread and butter stuff, but you have to be pragmatic. So I'm passionate about animal welfare and the environment and equality for girls, and education in Uganda. That's the things I'm passionate about. So I think I think there's a lot to be. I think a real benefit is if you're absolutely not sure which direction you need to go in, take yourself off on your own, so you've got no distractions. Walk up a mountain if you can. Go and sit in a park. Walk on a beach. Do a bit of beach cleaning. Just think to yourself. Really give yourself time to think. I mean, I'm not saying months, because at this stage in your life, you've only got a short window to apply for places, really. And I'd say make the most of the advisors at this job fair, at this careers week. Absolutely take their advice. Don't be frightened to apply. I think if you've just done your BA honours and you've got decent GCSEs, go for the PGCE. It's only a year, but that's on your CV, which means you'll always get work. You'll always get work as a teacher. You might not want to do it long term. You might not want it, but a short term. There are teaching agencies out there who are crying out for people, but you've got to have your PGCE. It's only a year. Suck it up. If you've got no other direction, you don't know what you're going to do, I'd say, and you've just finished your BA honours, and you can, I'm sorry to say it, stomach staying in education and doing academics for another year, you wouldn't lose money doing that. That's something I would like to have done. I had rubbish. I didn't have GCSEs. I had CSEs going back to the 1970s, which were rubbish. And they said, oh, well, you can retake your GCSEs. And I thought, I just can't do this. I just didn't have it in me. But I think if you can, go for it. If you're younger, I think you've got more energy, go for it. If you've got energy and you're older, go for it. But I think there's a lot. I think if you can and you want to, go for the MA, but I think you need to be more academic for that, and that wasn't really me. I'm more sort of creative, and I'd rather spend more time being creative and seeing results. You know, it nearly killed me, I'll be honest, doing my dissertation, but I got it. I did it. I got on with it, gritted my teeth, and I just did it because I wanted to see an end. And it sort of brought all the years at art school into an end to that. It was closure, really. And I love it. And I walked 2 inches taller for having a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge accomplishment. And I think, you know, as you were saying with the PGCE, it opens doors to other opportunities, like really further study. So
does.
In terms of a typical workday for you then, I mean, first of all, is there such thing as a typical workday, or what types of things might you get up to?
I took notes on this. I'm not even going to look at those. I would say that my typical workday, well, it all depends what I'm in the middle of. I tend to be in the middle of something. And so I'm no longer an activities coordinator because I've realised I've got this spinal stenosis, lumbar stenosis going on. So my legs just give way at about 3 o'clock every afternoon, and the doctor said, that's it, you're not working there anymore. And so, but I absolutely love that. But my day depends on how well I've slept the night before. If I've got a good sleep, great. And if I haven't, then I've got rheumatoid arthritis. I've got a lot of disabilities going on that I won't bore you with. But I don't sleep terribly well, and the next day all depends on that. I do have 2 very large dogs, Dougal and Blue, Collie Labrador crosses, and they wake me up in the morning. And so after I've sorted them out, I will look at my diary. If I've got to meet builders or ring people or take calls or do interviews like this or whatever, then I plan my day around that, and I just get on with it. But the best time, it's always been my case that I seem to be at my mind is clearest at 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why that is, but it just is. And often I produce my best work in the middle of the night, and I do think it's because you're not distracted by the telephone and door going and dogs need walking and other people wanting things from you. You know, it's just I'm not recommending it, but that's often the case. But I do think you should clear your mind somewhere, up a mountain, in a park, on a beach, whatever, and say to yourself, what do I want from life? What is my goal? What is my target? And go for it. That's what I would say. You've got to have it in your mind, otherwise you'll be floundering and not really going anywhere. So you need to try and be pragmatic. That's why I say, if you're not sure what you're going to do, get yourself on another course, keep the momentum, because you've been in doing a degree. Keep that momentum going and stay in your education. It can't do you any harm. It's money in the bank. There aren't enough jobs. I'm sorry to say it. There are not enough jobs out there, arty jobs, really, for everybody to get one. So you have to just improve your own situation by doing something positive. And if that means staying in education, then I would say do that. If you can, do that. Brilliant. I loved the University of Cumbria. Absolutely loved it. And I think it's such a wonderful place to be. So make the most of it, really. But there's nothing holding you back. You don't have to stay in Cumbria. You don't have to stay in England. You know, there's a world out there. Do volunteering. Yeah, it all looks good on your CV. But it's all money. I do appreciate that. But
also the benefits, really, that you found that you've had working for yourself and doing that type of freelance work.
Well, it's making contacts. When I started off there, I didn't have any of the contacts, and so I've made those over the years. I mean, it's something as simple as a Giclée print guy over at Brampton, the framing shop over there, Castle Framing. Highly recommend Mike. I can turn up there any time of the day, take my stuff in, tell him what I need, or ring him up now because he's got my stuff on computer and say, could I have 20 of X, Y, Z, please? And he'll just print them off. And it's contacts like that, which are really, really valuable. When you sell direct to the public, I know this sounds insignificant, but believe me, if you want to paint and you want to sell to the public, don't make anything bigger than A3, as we used to call it, because it needs to be something people can carry away. Don't do huge canvases that people can't get in their cars because they won't buy them and they get damaged easily, so they're an absolute pain to move around. And just people do buy contemporary stuff, but I'm sorry to say it, but most people don't want weird and wonderful stuff. They just want the mountains and the lakes and the stuff like that. And they want, another thing is they want it in a mounted frame and they want a string on the back. If I had a penny for every time I hear somebody, when I was starting off, it hasn't got a string on the back, or it hasn't got hooks, so I won't buy it. And you're thinking, my goodness, so they literally want it to be an affordable price, and they want to be able to take it straight home and hang it on the wall. Mm-hmm. They're lazy. I'm sorry, there's a lot of lazy people out there. Another thing is the farmers. I mean, I've got a lot of farmers that buy my work because I do a lot of agriculture as well. I spoke to a farmer. I did hill farming, another course, a hill farming course, so I know about biosecurity and stuff like that. And I've got quite a following in the farming community. Mm-hmm. So I go to the sales sort of at Christmas, sort of when they're doing the lamb and when they're doing the lambing sales and the different sales at Christmas and all the rest of it. And you just set up your stall, you get permission and you set up your stall and you just sell your stuff and it goes. And one of the biggest earners, and again, it sounds insignificant, but if you're going to go down that road, one of the biggest profit margins is cards, because they've got 100% profit margin. 100%. Just go down to Mike's, you say, can I have 50 of that particular card? You get them and you put them in yourself, you put them in the envelopes, you put them in the cellophanes, and you sell them on. And I've gone to places where my vast majority of profit has been through cards, because just people buy them. Mm-hmm. Just people buy them. If you want something more from your art and you're hoping to get into the galleries and everything else, good luck to you. Yeah, a lot of that is down to who you know, and you have to, it's quite hard graft getting into those positions. It really, really, really is. The Lake District, every other person is an artist, so mm-hmm. There's a lot of competition up here. Use the internet. Just get your work out there. What can I say? I was going to say about the farmer that I met a farmer, and it was just one of those incidental sort of things, and I broke down and he stopped and said, could he help? And I said, could I come and spend some time in your lambing shed? And so that's what I did. And I sat there with the lambs, with the sheep, while they were lambing, and I just took lots and lots of photographs, and that was, I produced a series of work that was really, really successful mm-hmm. for the farming community. But they know what they're looking at. So if you're painting a sheep or a bull or whatever, and you get something not quite right, they'll let you know.
So having that niche, that almost like niche market,
it's finding the niche. It is absolutely finding the niche, and making the most of the markets. I mean, please God, we end up with the agricultural sales coming back and the different markets. Get yourself into those. Set yourself up a stall and sell direct to the public.
Yeah,
good way to get your work out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good advice. So I suppose we've kind of covered this idea of perhaps graduates who are unsure about their career path, where you mentioned perhaps volunteering or going into further study to give them some more time to gain experience and think about what different types of things they'd like to do. But what about arts graduates who are perhaps in the process of applying for jobs or thinking about applying for jobs? Is there any specific advice that you would give to them?
I would say make sure the obvious things, make sure your CV is really strong and relevant and updated. Constantly update it with everything you're doing that's relevant, that you think, that would look good on it. Just add it and update it. You don't want it waffling on and on and on and on. The university, there's always, there are people that can help you put these, help you with a CV if you're getting a bit stuck. I just think you need to try to make yourself stand out from the crowd. There are every single job, every single position, they're overwhelmed with people applying. So you need to stand out a bit if you can, and familiarize yourself with the company a bit. Familiarize yourself with the company and definitely meet the brief. Make sure you understand what they're saying they want from somebody, and sort of fit yourself into that hole. But even something as simple as when you put your CV together and you send it off, if they want a hard copy, which they still do sometimes, they don't all want it online. If you send a hard copy, send a photograph of yourself. But there's nothing stopping you doing that, even if it's online. But just to make it a little bit more personal, I got an interview up at the hospital for something. I think it was a receptionist job I was going for. And I got that because I sent an image of myself, and they said, we thought that lady looked nice, so we invited her along. I didn't get it. I later worked with a lady. This is what I was trying to say before. I later worked with a lady whose husband was the head of HR at the hospital, who said that they give jobs to the people who already work at the hospital. And the person that actually got the job was somebody that had worked in a different department and who downgraded to get that particular job. This is what I'm saying about don't take things personal when you get knocked back. You will get knocked back. Often is the case that the jobs go to people on the inside. Yeah, and I'm sorry to say that. You wouldn't think that was legal, but it happens. So don't get disheartened, but do have a target and just keep your ears and eyes open for opportunities. And don't be too proud. If you're going to look for a job for a personal artist to fill the hotel down the road, that's not going to happen. Those jobs don't exist. Go for exhibitions. Go for the more exhibitions you do, the more money you can charge for your work. And keep notes of what you're doing as well, so you can demonstrate what you do. I'm going to sneeze. But excuse me. But yeah, are you falling asleep?
No. I'm just I think that's good advice, and I think perhaps is particularly relevant at the moment around resilience and not taking things personally, given graduates listening might be feeling a little bit appreciative or a little bit nervous about going into the jobs market because of the way things are. So I think that's really good advice around.
Can I just say that? Try to think outside the box. I think there wouldn't be any harm in. Well, I don't know. Just try and think outside the box a little bit. I know that when I did my degree show, I had a journalist from the News and Star that came, and she picked my work because she said mine was relevant. My work was relevant, and from that, my work went into there was like a double page spread in an educational supplement for the News and Star. That's really good. That really, really feels good when something like that happens. And another thing, the director of the Tully House, I'm not sure if he's still there, he came to the show as well, and he gave me his card. And I can remember the tutor at the time saying, crikey, he doesn't give her cards to people. You've done really well there. And I thought, well, that's a little inroad. That's got to be a little inroad. Anyway, so afterwards, I thought, oh, I'll give it a month. And I sent him an email directly to him, and I reminded him that he'd seen my work and were there any opportunities for me to put my work into Tiny House. And he came straight back with, there's no money for contemporary art now at present. There's absolutely no money because it's all business driven. It's all about they're applying for grants and things just as much as anywhere else is. It's all driven by profit and stuff like that. So you might find an opportunity comes, but you won't actually get any money back at that point. But it's just getting your name out there and getting known. I have applied for things in the past where I was dead in the water. I've put things in and I thought, this isn't going to go down. This is going to go down like a lead balloon. And I'll give you an example. Cumbrian Artist of the Year. Okay, I would say don't waste your time putting anything in for that if it's not bread and butter stuff that the tourists like. And this is the stuff you learn. You absolutely learn. I would put it because I thought, oh, I'll go for that this year. And my environmental stance and everything else, I thought I'm going to put a skit. It was really good. I thought it was good. And do you know what? All the other artists that were putting their stuff in to be looked at and everything else and considered, they were all coming around my work saying, oh, this is fantastic. We absolutely love this. Absolutely brilliant. And I thought, well, this is going to be easy. This is going to be great. I'll get selected. They didn't like it. I didn't like it. And it was only afterwards that I realised that all the work that they picked was what they thought the tourists would like. And they didn't want to see my skip full of plastic detritus that I'd collected off the beaches of Cumbria. That went down like a lead balloon. I know. And so you live and learn. You absolutely live and learn. Another thing that I put in was War Child. So again, that's not really flavour of the month when they're trying to sort of promote Cumbria as, mountains and lakes and pretty sheep and So don't be too extreme because in Cumbria just hasn't got the stomach for it. That's what I found. In reality, that's what I found. I'm sorry to say it. You're going to have to look outside somewhere or I don't know, but I haven't. That's what I found here. I found the practicalities of being an artist and making your artwork are being open-minded. Art comes into all sorts of things. I've got a plasterer who's brilliant at plastering, useless at carpentry. Hey, Bing, I'm an artist. I could do carpentry in my sleep. So I boxed in, when it comes to boxing in all the pipes and everything else, and there were meters and meters and meters of it, really difficult angles, really complicated things that would have cost a fortune to get a carpenter in to do. I think we were looking at something like £1,200 to get a carpenter in to do those jobs. Oh, I loved it. Give me a hammer, give me some nails. And I absolutely loved it. Now that's art. That's real art in practice, as far as I'm concerned. Of course, I'd rather be in a foundry making more whales. I got a lovely sponsorship from the Hadfield Trust when I was at the university, and I went and I did a foundry course, bronze foundry course, which I would actually highly recommend. The Hadfield Trust, apply for it if you do stay at the university. I absolutely loved that. But in practice, I've got bills to pay, day after day after day after day. They don't go away, and you need to get that money coming in. I am hopeful. I'm really hopeful that we can run with this, Carlisle, and art is going to really become, higher on the agenda. For sure it is. I mean, every opportunity I get to speak up for art, whether it's at the Chamber of Commerce meetings or people that I meet, I do, and I just think let's try and will it along that it really becomes. I'd love to think we could go for City of Culture, but we need a bit of a groundswell of people to go for it. But I do think if somebody wants a job, nursing homes tend to be shouting out for activities coordinator, but you will have to put your foot down. You're not going for carer, because they're all shouting out for carers, but the carers get rubbish money, and you're better off working on the till at Sainsbury's. And that sounds awful, but that's the reality. But many of the homes are shouting out for activity coordinators. And then you can get the dementia residents doing art, or demonstrating art, or knitting, or all that stuff. What you have got to be careful of is, obviously, you're working with very vulnerable people, that you can't be giving them beads and things they'll choke on, or poke somebody's eye out with, or you've got to think safety first.
Yep, absolutely.
And obviously you need to get your certificate so you can work with vulnerable people, but that's easy enough to do online.
No, I think that's really good advice, and perhaps something that maybe some of our students who are listening won't have considered before, but would allow them to, as you say, to build up some experience and
absolutely
diversify. Yeah.
Excellent. Not an easy environment. It's not an easy job. It's really quite difficult. There's always somebody moaning, always somebody saying something, sort of complaining about something. But with activities coordinator, you can sort of carve your own way of doing things, and it can be as good as you make it, really. But you need to be good at note keeping as well. Everything needs to go down. Everything needs to be written down, in the files and everything, which is easy for somebody that's just come out of an academic course, BA honours. But I think, as I said before, if I was younger, and I'm sorry to come back to that, and enjoyed that academic side of things, I definitely would have stayed on and continued my education. I mean, I think you yourself have got a PhD, haven't you? I mean, wow, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe if at 21 I could have stayed in, I would have gone down that road. But that wasn't to be. So my career, I've gone way off the line here. I'm so sorry.
No,
my career, 5 years at art school, had to leave because of my husband. So what did I do? I went to work looking after him, but part-time at that point. But I went to work in with a photographer in London in the music industry. So that was an interesting time. I was a photography assistant, earning rubbish money. I think it was £40 a week or something. But I learned all about photography, and I learned about the music industry and how to deal with famous people and treat them like everybody else, which was what they want normally. But I'd be picking famous people up from London and bringing them back to the studio, and that was interesting. And the guy that I worked for was the late Bob Marley's personal photographer. So one of my first jobs was filing all of Bob Marley's negatives, well, we had in those days negatives, on this new thing called a computer. I'm going back now a few years. But I learned an awful lot from that. And after that, I went to work for British Aerospace, which, again, fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And you think, what on earth has military aircraft got to do with art? Well, I used to insulate all of the high and low temperature pipes that went onto the aircraft, the Harrier jump jets and Hawk training aircraft, and everything had to be pattern cut and done by hand. So I could cover, I'm not joking, I could cover anything in a fabric and hand stitch it, and it would be absolutely perfect, because that's an artist's eye. And because when I was at art college, I learned how to pattern cut, and from there I got that job, and I was earning 4 times what anybody else I knew was earning. That paid so well. Absolutely loved that. That was down in Ham, not there now, it's housing estate, Kingston upon Thames. That's where it was. But they are a very good firm to work for, British Aerospace. Again, there's nothing up here apart from submarines in Barrow, which isn't really the same sort of thing. But that's it really. But you're an artist. You've got to keep your mind open, really. To earn money, I've decorated people's houses.
And I think it's that, as you've kind of alluded to there, like diversification of skills.
Absolutely.
And that will help graduates to succeed, really.
Yeah, it's not just about painting canvases. That's the fun bit. That's the cherry on the top. If you can do that stuff and get paid for it, that's great. But it's all the other stuff, but being pragmatic and using your art in your life. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else I could think that could possibly be useful. What I would advise is joining. What were they called? I had to write it down because I couldn't remember what they were called. Excuse me, bear with me a minute.
That's okay.
Did I write it down? Axis Web. If you haven't heard of Axis Web, they're a contemporary art and artists organisation. But they also, it was one of the head tutors that told me about Axis Web. It's free. I think it's free, or 10 quid a year or something. But they include insurance, because when you do your shows, your exhibitions, you're selling to the public, you have to have your own insurance. And that can not be worthwhile. It can be sort of too expensive to make it worthwhile. But whereas and also on your CV, it looks good that if you're in a professional body. Oh, I've thought of something else that's also a thought that people might enjoy doing. If I'm allowed to keep talking.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So Axis Web, I would definitely advise that, because it looks good. You're in a professional society, and it just makes you stand out a little bit more from the crowd. You're not just an art student. You've got that little bit more professionalism about you. So what was I going to say? Another avenue to pursue, which I'd love to see more of across the country, but there just isn't, is art therapists. So if you've got your BA honours, you could go to, I think it's St Margaret's. I did apply. It's up near Edinburgh, and you could go there, but it's 2 years long, and it's quite academic. But you can't. This whole thing about being an activities coordinator, you are an art therapist, but you're not allowed to call it that unless you've got that art therapist's certificate to say you've done that course. And that course, the only course, there's one in that one, I think it's St Margaret's in Edinburgh, and there's one down south, I think Bristol, and there's nothing in between. And it's art therapy. I would love to have got onto that. And but what they have is, I actually went for the interview, and I passed the interview. Now this is gut wrenching, I can tell you. I went for the interview, passed the interview, and was offered a place. And I said, thank you so much, I'm over the moon. Told the family, said this is where I'm going for 2 years. And the following day, the person, the intake person, looked at it, contacted me, and she said, we can't actually give it to you because you haven't got your GCSEs, A to C in the maths, English, and the science. I said, why the heck didn't you say that in the first place? I've got a BA honours. They don't care about that. They keep reverting back to GCSEs. I think that's got to change. I think that has got to change. But as we stand right this second, if you haven't got GCSEs, it would be an idea to retake them if you can face it. Now, I can tell you, I know a lot of people that have, and they do it over at Trinity School here, but the courses get absolutely overwhelmed with people retaking them because they've realised, oh crikey, these GCSEs are so important to get jobs, the best jobs, and get on the best courses. Doesn't matter you've got your degree, doesn't matter you've got bells and whistles on goodness knows what, they still revert back to those blasted GCSEs. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's actually a critical thing for your career.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's good advice, and perhaps something for, if anyone listening is in a similar position, perhaps something for them to think about. And yeah, I agree. I think art therapy courses sound really interesting. And again, if there's students listening who are perhaps interested in those types of opportunities, they could definitely check that out.
Yeah.
I'll include a link to Access Web alongside this podcast on Blackboard if anyone who's listening is interested in that. I think those are all the questions that I have there, Jean. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think
You're
our
welcome.
students will
I
find
hope I
this.
haven't gone over the time too much.
Oh, no, that's absolutely fine. I think there's loads of really useful advice in there that our students,
And
yeah,
don't
really
forget, there's a week's work there if somebody wants to paint my basement.
I'm sure you'll have lots.
All
That's
right.
great.
You contact me. You're welcome to give my email address out and, you know, anything else. So if you want to do that, you're more than welcome. If anybody wants to contact me, they're more than welcome to.
That would be great. I'm sure, yeah,
Okay.
fine art students would find that really helpful. Thank
Well,
you so
take
much
care.
for participating.
Good luck, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.